Have you ever looked at the men around you, successful, accomplished, respected, and sensed something missing beneath the surface? These men wear suits, lead companies, father children, and yet, something essential feels absent. Carl Jung, the pioneering depth psychologist, identified this phenomenon nearly a century ago. Most men never truly become men. They remain psychologically adolescent, trapped in a half-developed state while wearing the costume of maturity. Perhaps you've sensed this deficiency within yourself, a gnawing emptiness beneath your achievements, a voice whispering that despite checking society's boxes for manhood, something fundamental remains unfinished. This isn't about physical strength or status. Jung discerned a deeper truth. Authentic manhood requires a psychological journey few men complete. A journey into the depths of one's own shadow, the integration of opposing forces, and the discovery of what Jung called the self. The tragedy, as Jung saw it, is that modern society has severed men from the initiatory processes that once transformed boys into men. We've replaced sacred masculine rights with hollow achievements, degrees, promotions, possessions, none of which address the profound inner transformation required for authentic manhood. The result? Grown men with boy psychology, disconnected from their depths, playing roles rather than embodying genuine masculine power. Do you find yourself endlessly seeking validation, haunted by insecurity despite outward success? Do you struggle with emotional intimacy or find yourself either dominating others or being dominated? These are symptoms Jung recognized as signs of incomplete masculine development. The world is filled with emotionally stunted men, comfortable in their persona but strangers to their own depths. These are not real men in Jung's understanding. They are boys wearing men's clothing. In this exploration, we will confront the barriers that Jung identified as obstacles to true masculine maturation. More importantly, we'll illuminate the path Jung discovered, a challenging but transformative journey toward authentic manhood. This is not about becoming an alpha male stereotype or embracing toxic machismo. It's about something far more profound, becoming whole, integrated, alive, the man you were born to be beneath the layers of conditioning. Are you ready for this journey? Then take a deep breath and continue, but be warned. What follows may disturb the comfortable illusions you've constructed about yourself. The path to authentic manhood requires looking into mirrors few men have the courage to face. Yet only by seeing yourself clearly can you begin the transformation Jung understood as essential to becoming a real man. The first barrier to authentic manhood Jung identified was over-identification with the persona, the social mask men wear to gain acceptance and navigate society. The persona, Jung wrote, is what someone is not, but what he and others think he is. It's the face you present in meetings, the role you play as provider, the image you project on social media. While necessary for social functioning, the persona becomes problematic when mistaken for the complete self. Most men today have confused the mask with the face. They believe they are their job titles, their achievements, their social status. This persona identification creates what Jung called the hollow man. Impressive on the outside, empty within. Look around at the men in your life. How many are performing manhood rather than embodying it? How many have so completely identified with their social roles that nothing genuine remains visible? The persona-bound man is recognizable by his rigidity, his excessive concern with appearances, his inability to be spontaneous or vulnerable. He says what others expect, behaves as convention dictates, and avoids authentic self-expression at all costs. While appearing strong and capable, he is internally weak, disconnected from his emotional life, allergic to his own depths. This is not strength, but its opposite, a profound weakness disguised as masculine power. If you recognize this pattern within yourself, pay attention. Do you feel most comfortable when following the script of what a good man should be? Do you fear what might emerge if you stepped out of your prescribed role? Jung observed that many men spend their entire lives hiding behind their persona, terrified of what lies beneath, never daring to discover who they might be beyond social expectations. This is the first way men fail to become men. They remain actors rather than authors of their lives. The journey toward authentic manhood begins with recognizing the persona as exactly what it is: a partial, constructed aspect of yourself, useful but incomplete. As Jung put it, one can be completely the persona only at the expense of individuality. Until you distinguish between the roles you play and the man you are, true masculine development remains impossible. Beneath the polished persona of the successful man lies what Jung called the shadow. All the aspects of yourself deemed unacceptable, dangerous, or contrary to your self-image. These rejected parts don't disappear. They accumulate in the unconscious, gaining power through denial. The shadow, Jung wrote, is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality. Until a man confronts his shadow, he remains psychologically fragmented, cut off from vital aspects of his masculine energy. Modern masculine ideals force men to disown crucial aspects of themselves: vulnerability, uncertainty, tenderness, dependence. These natural human qualities are labeled unmanly and banished from consciousness. Yet Jung observed that what is repressed doesn't disappear. It returns in distorted forms. The man who cannot acknowledge his vulnerability becomes brittle rather than strong. The man who denies his dependency becomes controlling rather than independent. What you reject controls you. This is why many seemingly strong men erupt in disproportionate rage over minor provocations, or collapse when their carefully constructed world is disrupted. They lack integration. The parts of themselves they've disowned exist as autonomous complexes within the psyche, emerging in moments of stress to sabotage conscious intentions. This inner division prevents authentic masculine power, which Jung understood as flowing from wholeness rather than compartmentalization. The shadow-denying man is recognizable by his judgmentalism, his black and white thinking, his excessive moralism toward others while remaining blind to his own flaws. He cannot tolerate in others what he refuses to acknowledge in himself. His strength is rigid rather than resilient, his certainty a defense against his unacknowledged doubts. This false masculinity breaks rather than bends when truly tested. Jung was clear. The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well. There is no authentic manhood without shadow integration. The parts of yourself you've rejected contain essential energy needed for wholeness. By reclaiming your shadow, not acting it out destructively, but consciously incorporating it, you access a deeper, more genuine masculine power than persona-based strength could ever provide. Perhaps Jung's most profound insight into why men remain boys concerns what he called the mother complex, the unresolved psychological relationship with the feminine that keeps men in perpetual adolescence. Jung observed that many men never psychologically separate from the mother archetype, remaining unconsciously defined by either attachment to or rebellion against feminine energy rather than establishing an integrated masculine identity. This complex manifests in two primary patterns: the eternal boy and the mother-bound man. The eternal boy, what Jung called the puer aeternus, refuses responsibility, commitment, and limitation. He lives for pleasure, novelty, and freedom, unable to engage with life's necessary constraints. Though he may appear as an adventurous alpha male, his refusal to submit to life's demands reveals his arrested development. He is retreating from the masculine journey rather than advancing on it. Conversely, the mother-bound man appears responsible and dutiful, but remains psychologically fused with the feminine. He may be a good provider or a nice guy, but his identity is defined by pleasing or opposing women rather than through inner authority. His relationships with women are distorted by projection. He seeks either the perfect mother or rebels against maternal authority, but never relates to women as equals or establishes his own masculine center. Both patterns represent failed masculine development. As Jung wrote, no man can become a complete human being without a positive relationship to the archetypal feminine. Yet this relationship must transform from childhood dependency to adult integration. The mother complex keeps men psychologically juvenile, either perpetual boys avoiding responsibility or dutiful sons lacking inner authority. Breaking free requires conscious engagement with what Jung called the anima, the inner feminine aspect of the male psyche. This is not about external relationships with women, but about integrating the feminine aspects of your own nature, emotionality, receptivity, relatedness, into a complete masculine identity. Until this integration occurs, a man remains psychologically incomplete, driven by unconscious patterns rather than conscious choice. The journey to authentic manhood requires separating from both literal and symbolic mother bondage, while avoiding the opposite error of rejecting the feminine altogether. This delicate balance, honoring the feminine while establishing masculine autonomy, is what Jung saw as essential to male psychological maturation. Few men achieve it, remaining instead in perpetual reaction to, rather than relationship with the feminine. Jung recognized that traditional societies guided boys into manhood through initiation rituals, structured experiences that facilitated psychological transformation through ordeal, instruction, and community recognition. Modern society has abandoned these practices, leaving men developmentally stranded, expected to become men without guidance on this profound inner transformation. The result is generations of chronologically adult males who have never been properly initiated into mature masculinity. Initiation in traditional cultures wasn't merely ceremonial, it served crucial psychological functions. It separated boys from maternal influence, introduced them to male wisdom traditions, confronted them with their limitations through ordeal, and provided recognition of their new status from the male community. All these elements facilitated the psychological shift from boy consciousness to man consciousness. Without them, men remain in a perpetual state of unclear identity, chronological adults with adolescent psychology. The uninitiated man typically exhibits several telltale signs. He lacks firm boundaries, struggles with self-discipline, seeks constant validation, competes inappropriately with other men, idealizes or demonizes women, and feels chronic uncertainty about his masculine identity. He may compensate with hypermasculine behavior or retreat into passivity, but neither approach resolves his underlying developmental incompleteness. He remains psychologically adolescent despite his adult responsibilities. This developmental arrest has profound consequences. Uninitiated men often seek pseudo-initiations through destructive behaviors, excessive risk-taking, substance abuse, violence, sexual conquest. Others retreat into perpetual adolescence, avoiding adult responsibilities altogether. Neither path leads to authentic manhood, which Jung understood as requiring conscious initiation rather than either regression or compensation. Jung believed that modern men must create their own initiatory experiences since society no longer provides them. This requires seeking older, psychologically mature men as mentors, voluntarily undertaking ordeals that challenge your limitations, studying masculine wisdom traditions, and finding male communities that support authentic development rather than reinforcing persona identification. The uninitiated man must seek his own initiation. Without this conscious engagement with the initiatory process, men remain in a state of arrested development, functioning as adults but lacking the psychological transformation that turns boys into men. As Jung observed, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. Uninitiated fathers cannot initiate sons, creating generations of psychologically incomplete men, passing their developmental gaps to their children. Jung discovered that the human psyche contains innate patterns he called archetypes, universal templates that shape experience and provide connection to collective human wisdom. For masculine development, 4 archetypes are particularly crucial: king, warrior, magician, and lover. Jung observed that modern men are typically disconnected from these archetypal energies, resulting in distorted masculinity, either inflated caricatures or deflated shadows of authentic masculine power. The king archetype represents order, blessing, centeredness, and generativity. When connected to this energy, a man provides structure, nurturance, and purpose for himself and others. When disconnected, he becomes either a tyrannical dictator or a passive weakling. Most men today lack connection to healthy king energy, either abusing power or avoiding it altogether, creating chaos in both their internal and external lives. The warrior embodies discipline, focus, courage, and skillful action. This archetypal energy enables boundary setting, protection of what is valuable, and decisive action. Without proper connection to this archetype, men become either destructive aggressors or ineffectual cowards, unable to harness the warrior's power for constructive purposes. Modern masculinity often demonizes or glorifies warrior energy rather than integrating it appropriately. The magician represents consciousness, awareness, technological skill, and transformative knowledge. This archetype facilitates insight, perspective, and transformation. When this connection is broken, men become either manipulative tricksters or innocent but ineffective dreamers. Contemporary culture offers few pathways to healthy magician energy, leaving men either over-intellectualized or unconscious. The lover connects men to sensuality, relatedness, feeling, and aesthetic appreciation. This archetype enables passion, empathy, and connection with life's vitality. Without this energy properly integrated, men become either addictive sensation seekers or emotionally detached observers. Modern masculine ideals often require men to suppress lover energy, resulting in emotional disconnection and sensory impoverishment. Jung understood that authentic masculinity requires balanced access to all four archetypal energies. Most men today are overdeveloped in one area and underdeveloped in others. Perhaps technically skilled, magician, but emotionally stunted, lover, or physically powerful, warrior, but lacking purpose and generativity, king. This imbalance creates distorted masculinity rather than integrated manhood. Reconnecting with these archetypes requires conscious engagement with symbols, stories, and practices that embody these energies. This might involve studying mythological and historical exemplars, engaging in practices that develop these qualities, and finding contemporary expressions of these archetypal patterns. Without this reconnection, men remain cut off from the deep wisdom of masculine development embedded in the collective unconscious. Having identified why most men never fully mature, Jung also illuminated the path toward authentic manhood. This journey is not about conforming to cultural stereotypes, but about psychological integration, becoming whole rather than merely successful. The process requires courage, commitment, and typically guidance from those further along the path. Here are the essential steps Jung identified for masculine development. First, recognize the persona as merely a social mask, not your authentic self. Begin distinguishing between the roles you play and the man you are beneath these performances. Notice when you're acting from social conditioning rather than genuine impulse. This awareness creates space between you and your persona, allowing authentic selfhood to emerge. Second, engage consciously with your shadow. Identify what qualities you judge harshly in others. These point to your disowned aspects. Notice when you react with disproportionate emotion. These triggers reveal shadow material. Begin dialoguing with these rejected parts, rather than projecting them outward. Integration requires acknowledgement, not acting out or suppression. Third, differentiate from the mother complex while integrating your anima. Examine your patterns in relationships with women. Do you seek maternal nurturing or rebel against perceived control? Work to relate to women as equals rather than mother substitutes. Simultaneously, develop your internal feminine qualities, emotional awareness, receptivity, relational capacity, without fearing these will diminish your masculinity. Fourth, seek initiatory experiences that challenge your limitations. Place yourself voluntarily in situations that demand growth beyond your comfort zone. Find mentors who embody mature masculine qualities. Join or create communities of men committed to authentic development rather than persona reinforcement. Create rituals that mark transitions in your masculine journey. Fifth, reconnect with masculine archetypes through study, practice, and contemplation. Explore myths, stories, and historical examples of integrated masculinity. Develop practices that embody different archetypal energies: discipline and courage, warrior; generativity and order, king; consciousness and skill, magician; and sensuality and connection, lover. Work toward balanced expression of all four archetypal patterns. Finally, commit to the individuation process Jung described as the ultimate goal of psychological development. This means becoming progressively more conscious of unconscious material, integrating opposing aspects of your psyche, and moving toward wholeness rather than perfection. Individuation is not about becoming an ideal man, but about becoming fully yourself, the unique expression of masculinity only you can embody. Jung understood this journey as both deeply personal and universally human. Each man must travel this path in his own way, yet the fundamental challenges and transformations follow patterns as old as humanity itself. What differs in modern times is the lack of cultural support for this journey. Today's man must often seek his own way, creating a conscious path toward manhood in a society that no longer facilitates this essential development. The reward for this difficult journey is authentic manhood, not as defined by culture, but as experienced in the depth of your being. The integrated man possesses genuine rather than performative strength. His power flows from wholeness rather than domination. His boundaries from centered selfhood rather than fear. His relationships from authentic connection rather than projection. He embodies masculine energy without apology or exaggeration, neither toxic nor diluted. Few men complete this journey, which is why Jung observed that most men never become real men. But those who undertake this path discover something extraordinary, the man they were born to be beneath the conditioning, the projections, and the incompleteness of conventional masculinity. This is not the end of struggle, but the beginning of authentic living, the foundation of a masculinity that serves life rather than diminishing it. Are you ready to become a real man in Jung's sense? Integrated, conscious, alive to both your strength and vulnerability? The path lies before you. It demands everything you are and offers everything you might become. The journey begins with a single step, the willingness to look honestly at yourself and ask, am I truly a man or merely playing the role of one? Your answer to this question could change everything. Are you willing to leave behind the comfortable illusions of conventional manhood to discover authentic masculine power? Jung knew most men would choose comfort over transformation. Will you be among the few who choose differently?